Hello. Good morning, I guess. Kind of, well, morning for me anyway, so coffee. Today we're going to be looking at robots that fought at ARC's Robot Havoc meet that happened at the end of last year. So I have Annie already on the desk in front of me, but I also have it doesn't work at all, or it works depending on exactly who you ask about this particular thing. So we're going to break down one or both of them today. I don't actually know. We'll see how we go time-wise. All right, let's take a look at chat. A duck. Yes, the opening screen is absolutely Quackers, which was a ant weight that I built a while ago. I can't remember exactly why it was a duck. I think it was just I found a duck head on Thingiverse and was like, you know what, I'm going to turn that into a combat robot. Yeah, and then we ended up with absolutely Quackers. It did start as a thwack bot first and then ended up as a hammer bot. It wasn't exactly good as a hammer bot. And no, I will not go back to bed, Ryan. It's early in the morning. It's fine. It's totally an okay time to be up and about. So I want to know, what do you guys want to see first out of the two that I have here? Do we want to pull open Annie first, or do we want to pull open the Melty Brain first? I actually really don't mind. I mean, Annie obviously got pulled apart quite considerably by Iron Tooth in its fights. And the Melty Brain also had a rough time with Iron Tooth, actually. Both of them didn't go particularly well against Iron Tooth. Although I think there's going to be less damage in the Melty Brain than there is through Annie. I've definitely got ideas on how to fix Annie and get her back up and running. Alright, well, I've seen an Annie in chat, so we're going to go with Annie. I think I'm hoping we might have time to do both, because disassembling robots is fairly quick and easy. So we'll have a look at that first. Also, I will just quickly point this out. I don't think I've done this in a video yet, but so this here is Annie. And then I have actually got some previous base plates of Annie. So this is the first time I moved over to a HDPE base plate, and you can see that her current iteration is quite a bit wider, but also just a touch shorter than the old one was. And then the one that a lot of people would probably be familiar with, this is her Bugglebot's top plate. So it was, yeah, not quite as wide, but also a little bit longer as well. Just, yeah, some interesting stuff, because I found these again recently. They were in my box of beetle parts, just sitting there doing nothing. So I thought I'd drag them out and show people what they were. Yeah. And yes, Iron Tooth does a whole lot of damage. It is definitely the scariest thing in the ARC League at this point in time. So, you know, it's the thing that you kind of have to build for, really. It's like the tombstone in the early BattleBots reboot seasons. Everybody's kind of building to make sure they can survive Iron Tooth, and unfortunately, yeah, no, I didn't really succeed at that in this particular case. I mean, yeah, certainly not with Annie here. Annie had some troubles against Iron Tooth. So, I think, yeah, the first port of call with Annie is always to take the top plate off. So, the newest iteration of Annie, the top plate is held down by 2 bolts out the front here, which usually have nuts on them, which don't at the moment. And then there's just some wood screws, tiny little wood screws actually, which didn't go too badly. They did get ripped off in the one big nasty fight with Iron Tooth, and in particular, this one out the back here got really badly damaged. So putting the screw back in there was a little bit fruitless on my part, but it did manage to hold at least a little bit. I think the lid and how the lid is held on is something I'm going to have to fix in the future. Yeah, and then we can see inside Annie, there's actually not a lot of room inside Annie these days, which is interesting given the fact that realistically she should have more space in here than she ever did before, but yeah, there's a lot of wiring and mess and stuff inside here. I'll also say, for the longest time, I did have a fuse in the electronic system because that is what's required for Bugglebots. You need a fuse in Annie, so I put a fuse in Annie for Bugglebots and then just, yeah, left them in there. But then I've recently redone Annie's electronics, so she doesn't have a fuse in place anymore. All right. There's a lot of wiring in here, and we're just going to have to unplug the lot of it, basically. Let's see what's going on in chat as I do things. Yes, Annie, the tire eater. Yep. Well, both Iron Tooth and Annie could be considered tire eaters. Let's see, I'd say. You should create a channel for Annie in the Discord server. Which Discord? Because I'm in a bunch of different Discords, but don't really frequent them all that often unless it's to, like, go into voice channels and talk to people. I don't post stuff in Discord all that often. Definitely want to disconnect the battery. That's a good idea. Also, probably should not have left a battery in Annie for a couple of months, although this one looks like it's an older battery, so that's not too bad. Those brushless stuff sticking out behind the wheels. Yes, this is tangential drive, as somebody else has pointed out in chat. I will just quickly show this off. So, as the wheel spins or as the motor spins, the tire spins, like, yeah, and vice versa. So the whole point of this is that you get a fairly decent gear ratio without having any gears or any extra kind of points of failure in the system. The only problem is that I really did this quite badly. There's a lot of things that could change to make this a lot better. And in actual fact, I think I'll just finish unplugging the electronics and then we'll talk about that, because this is something I did want to talk about. Because Annie is on tangential drive thanks to a comment from, it is early morning, so I am forgetting the name. I'm sorry, but I got a comment middle of 2020, early 2020, basically saying, this is what tangential drive is. There's a lot of Brazilian teams who use it successfully already. Try it out, give it a shot. So I built some tangential drive systems for Boris, my big beta weight test platform, and then decided to stick them into Annie as well. And I did put it into Annie, but I messed this system up terribly. So there's a few things that I would do differently. Basically, what happened with Annie in the Iron Tooth fight is a wheel got hit. This wheel is only being supported by this one piece of HDPE. You can see that there is the weapon bolt or the drive bolt. So there's 6 mil of HDPE holding that into its position, which is not enough. So when this wheel got hit, it bent the entire wall out entirely, which destroyed a whole bunch of stuff. But it also caused the connection between here and here to be wrong, because this is just a 3D printed mount also bolted into the same HDPE. Realistically, I should have bolted it into the base plate. Like, there should be bolts from here up into that motor mount, because that way the warping wouldn't have changed the position of this, it would only have changed the wheel. So if I was to do this again, this would be probably a metal motor mount and it would bolt into the base, and there would also be another piece of metal to hold the actual wheel alignment in place, so that if the wheel gets hit, it's not going to completely destroy this entire sidewall, which is what happened in that Iron Tooth fight. Is it got a wheel and just annihilated one of the side panels, actually ripping out the motor mount entirely, because again, this is just 3D printed. That was just what I could do at that time. So yeah, it's it is temperamental. Yes, I see that in chat. It is very temperamental. At least this system is temperamental. From what I've seen of the people who have done this better than I have, it can be quite devastating and quite quick if you build it correctly. I did not build it correctly into Annie, because I built Annie first, essentially, and then tried to custom fit a tangential drive system to the robot, whereas I feel like if you're doing a tangential drive system, you need to have a good tangential drive system and then build a robot around that, because the system does work, it's just finicky in what it needs, and you need to get the whole robot sorted so that the tangential drive system works. How would Annie do against Lynx? Now, Lynx is one of the... Is that Jameson Goes? beetle weight? I cannot remember. I know it's one of the really powerful American beetle weights. Here's what I'd say about that. In her current form, terribly. In version 3, version 4, before I started messing around with the drive system, probably actually not too bad. I do want to put Annie back into that situation. I have, yeah, basically used Annie as a bit of a test platform for various different weird and wonderful drive mechanisms over the past year. But I think it's time to put Annie back to her kind of just post Bugglebots form. Her Bugglebots form wasn't great, but just post Bugglebots form is probably where she hit her peak. So I want to get her back to that stage eventually. Probably either the next iteration or the one after that. We'll see. I'm not quite decided on exactly where I'm going with Annie for the next iteration. All right, let's see. Yes, well, Annie always slams her googly eyes into the spinner. Now, the interesting thing, which I don't know that I've ever mentioned on camera, is Annie's googly eyes. And we'll have a look at the googly eyes that she has on her right now. She's got one tiny one and one massive, massive one. This is because every time I put Annie into an event, she starts with 2 tiny little googly eyes and 1 mouth. And then as she fights, anytime a googly eye gets hit and gets damaged, which does happen a fair amount, I replace the googly eye with a bigger one until I get to this size. This is the largest size googly eye I have. And this is how Annie went over a 2-day event. One of the googly eyes just never got hit at all. This is the original googly eye that started that weekend out, and it's still there. I don't understand how that managed to work. Oh, yes, Lynx is, yes. Okay. You know what? Against a 4-wheel drive egg beater, oh, that is an interesting question, because I've had mixed results with Annie and egg beaters in the past, and Lynx is a very, very good egg beater. So I think it's a case of driving, and I honestly think he'd probably beat me on driving at this point in time. I would need a lot more practice, I think, to get Annie driving at a point where I would be able to beat Linux. That's a thing, because it is quite a good egg beater, but he's also a really, really good driver. So I want you to suggest you get away from metal gearboxes and try 3D printing pulleys. Yeah, okay. I mean, I've been thinking about doing something like that and having 3D printed gear stack up. I've also been thinking about not 3D printing the gears, but instead CNCing them out of HDPE, because a HDPE gear stack up would survive a lot better, I feel like. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go back to continuing to pull Annie apart now that we've kind of had a bit of an aside about tangential drive and also googly eyes, because, you know, got to talk about the googly eyes at some point here. Yes. Somebody's saying a single subplate that integrates the motor mount would be ideal for keeping the relationship between the motor shaft and the wheel shaft. Yes, exactly. In actual fact, if Annie was still on, do I have those parts next to me? Yes, I do. So if Annie was still on these, this is her side plate from actually the V3, the post Bugglebots era. If Annie was still on this type of side plate, which was literally just a right angle bracket of aluminium, this would be perfect for running a tangential drive off of, because you would run the wheel shaft directly through it, and then you just bolt the motor directly to it, and away it would go. Yeah, and that would be really, really good, because it would hold everything quite rigid, unlike the HDPE that we're currently rocking as side panels. Can I inject red dye into Annie's biggest eye to make it look like blood? No. A, I don't have anything to do that with, and B, that would just get messy, because wherever I injected it, there'd still be a hole, so as she's driving around, she'd be leaking blood, which event organizers would be very unhappy with that, I would assume. So, we're going to start with the weapon next. So, weapon is fairly easy. There is a single bolt all the way through. It is a shoulder bolt, because very early in Annie's career, she actually had just regular M8 bolts running through. But there was a lot of play in the weapons, so instead we gave up on... I got the wrong thing? No. Just wasn't holding it right. There we go. Alright, here we go. So this is Annie's weapon system, basically apart now. Come on. Oh, of course, I need to get the bolt out first. So the weapon is actually something I'd like to try and fix in the future, because getting it together is a bit of a pain, especially at the moment. Come here. So there's a tiny little washer in there because she was chewing up the aluminium piece that makes up the weapon mount up in here. As you can see, there's some damage up there, which is from previous fights. It's essentially where this bearing was rubbing both in the center and on the outside on this aluminium piece, basically breaking it. And that's something I'd known for a little while, which is why there was a bearing in there now. The problem with all of that is that to get this whole setup together, which I'm going to just quickly redo this for you on camera so you can see how much of a pain this is. Essentially, you fit the belt in, like so, and then what you have to do is go, alright, where's my, right, there it is. So everything falls apart all at once, but you shoulder bolt into the weapon, bearing, and washer, like that. And then basically back the bolt all the way off, and then somehow manage to invert the entire system and keep everything on the bolt. And then, this is the painful bit, try and get the belt on first. So you can see down in here, I've now got the belt around the pulley. And then, like, pull out on everything. Which, I made that look easier than it has been for a long time because I have got some practice with this now. But, yeah, it's... It was a bit of a pain when I first started doing this, but I guess without running a belt tensioner or something along those lines, it's always going to be a bit of a problem with that. Anyway, that's Annie's weapon. And yes, as mentioned, runs on a shoulder bolt, because that way there is basically no play in this system other than the fact that this is a 3D printed pulley, so there's a little bit of play in where the bearings sit in there, but that's actually something I want to fix going forwards. I think this pulley is about to go aluminium because, yeah, I keep burning the teeth off of these with belt slip, which is not a great thing to have happen all the time. It's nice that YouTube corrects this video for us in Europe so it's the right side up. Oh, no, YouTube doesn't do that. I do that. I have to, like, manually process. It happens all of my videos as well. If you come to Australia, my videos actually appear upside down in YouTube because I correct for the rest of the world. I know where most of my viewers are, so, you know, I just make sure they flip them. Whoops. That was the camera. Sorry about that. Modifying googly eyes seems like time in the pits well spent. Yeah, yeah, no, definitely don't have anything else I need to be doing in the pits to, yeah, before modifying googly eyes. Oh, wow. Just seen down here. So we've obviously we've taken a shot from Iron Tooth here, but I've just realized it's also hit here, and it's hit this bolt too, which this bolt is one of the ones that holds the actual weapon assembly on. So that is probably going to be a pain to get back out again. Where is chat up to? Ryan saying we did as much pre-Bogglebots R&D on eye mounting as we did on fork mounting. Yeah, fair enough. You also had... I gave you one of the mouths too, or one of Annie's mouth stickers as well, I think. Cool, so next up is going to be, I think we're going to get these wheels off because these wheels are a little bit busted, and that's probably the next best port of call. Unless I want to take... Actually, we're going to go the easy way, because the wheels are a bit of a pain. So instead, we're going to take the whole weapon assembly off, which the weapon assembly is not too bad, or at least the motor mounting for the weapon assembly is not too bad. Might surprise some people to see exactly how I've got all of this mounted up, especially those of you who haven't been watching Annie's basically build logs as I've been going through. This is something I did a while back, which I was intending on fixing and making better, but yeah, no. I just ended up sticking with the same system. So here we have 2 bolts which mount the entire brushless motor setup. So this whole setup is literally just 2 3D prints. Well, 3 if you count. There is a 3D printed block in here, which you can just see through this hole. That whole 3D printed block is tapped so that these 2 bolts just run straight into the tapped plastic, which is fairly easy to show off because I need to do it anyway, because it's literally just free floating in there. So if I don't put a bolt back in here, that block kind of slides back and forth, which makes it a real pain to get Annie back together again. The Annie mouth is still on. Awesome. I am so glad that that mouth is still floating around somewhere. I have gone through many mouths on Annie since that time. Sorry, I should be like doing things on camera. Screwing bolts is always the, most riveting content, I'm aware. But yeah, so here you go. This is the whole weapon stack up. There is literally an ABS plate that the motor itself mounts to, which is what actually holds it in position. And then there's this shroud, which does 2 jobs. A, it keeps all of the electronics that sit in the back of Annie out of this very fast spinning thing. But also B, it is just the right height to push off of this base plate here. So it sits down, and I'm not going to be able to really do this without taking a bolt back out. But actually, no, there we go. Yeah, so it sits down in there quite nicely and doesn't rock around, which means that this top plate can't bend down. It can bend back up, but doing so, if it tries to bend back up, it's actually pulling against the belt tension. So this whole block is essentially the thing that tightens the belt down, which is a little bit weird and probably not the best way of doing it, especially as you can see, it's probably only about a 10% infill 3D printed part that probably needs to be upgraded. I didn't realize it was quite that bad. I kind of print these every now and again and just throw whichever one I've got around into Annie at the time I'm building Annie. And yeah, that's probably wasn't the best one to use. I might have to, 3D print that better next time. Where were the custom metal pulleys for Annie, or where are the custom metal pulleys for Annie or It Works? Oh, custom metal pulleys were on It Works. That's this one up the front here and that one at the back here. And they were done by PCBWay. And I'm actually talking to PCBWay about doing more sponsorshipy stuff in the future. So maybe we'll get some custom metal pulleys for Annie from PCBWay in the future. That might be a good way forward, because like I said, I kind of want to upgrade these pulleys, because while I can print them nice and easily, I do go through a lot of them in events. It's a shame Ben blatantly ripped off Valkyrie, the original undercutter. Yep. Took a lot of inspiration there. Definitely. Alright. Oh, I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do something sacrilege, and we're going to take off the eye. Because you can see here, I've got a bolt here which mounts the faceplate, but the other bolt is about there, which means that the eye needs to come off. There we go. And you can see here, I actually do shock mount these. It's a double-sided foam tape that I use, so there is actually a little bit of give in them. Not that that has ever helped a googly eye stay on Annie before. Annie loses googly eyes left, right, and center, and I am honestly amazed that this googly eye has managed to survive as long as it did. It's a bit of a shame that it's probably not going to go back into another fight, because I think with the rejig that I'm going to do of Annie, this front plate is going to be useless from this point onwards. Because it's only the width. Normally I have the little wings out the side as well that protect wheels and other bits and pieces, and I think that's what we're going to go back to. So yeah, unfortunately, this faceplate might just be a one and done. However, I might find a spot for it on the shelf up behind me in videos and stuff because it would be really cool to immortalize this eye that managed to survive fights. How do you think this version will hold up to Romham? Ah, good question. Way, way better than we did originally. So, for those of you who've been around for a very long while, will probably know that there's some interesting stuff going on with Annie and Rumham. So there you go. That's Annie's front plate off. So Rumham is an undercutter beetle that exists in the States. It inspired Crippling Depression, which is Robert Cohen's undercutter featherweight. Crippling Depression inspired Annie, Are You Okay? So there's a long kind of chain there. And then, yeah, what happened was I then took Annie over to the States for AVC in 2015. No, not 2015. That's too early. I can't remember. I took Annie over to the States fairly early in her career and actually went up against Romham and got annihilated by Romham. One weapon-to-weapon shot and Annie basically exploded. It didn't help that at the time we were running a metal base plate, which was literally like 2 mil thick stainless steel or something, and the entire weapon system was bolted through this 2 mil thick stainless steel. That was the entire thing that was holding up like anything in that weapon stack up. So as soon as the weapon to weapon collision happened, that 2 mil thick steel around where the bolt was just bent wildly and destroyed the rest of Annie because that entire base plate got warped from the amount of energy that went through her. Luckily at that fight, I think I had a spare Lexan base plate, so I managed to get Annie back together by completely swapping out the metal base plate for a Lexan one that I'd built Annie with previously, which also wasn't a great move. Like, the weapon needs to be bolted to something more substantial than 2 mil steel or 3 mil Lexan. But I did get Annie back into another fight, and then it got destroyed. She got destroyed by... Oh... I can't remember what the robot's name was, but it was a similar design to a robot called Crazy Susan, in that it's a kind of round cone and then flat on the top, but the spinner is actually up on the top. And I was fine all the way up until I got up on top and got hit by the weapon, and then things broke. 2018 was AVC. Right, okay. Yeah, that makes way more sense than 2015. I wasn't even really fighting in 2015, I don't think. Yeah, okay. There you go. That's a bit of history on Annie. I think the next trick is going to be to take these wheels off, because I think that's honestly the best spot for us to go next. I've just been avoiding it because I've only got one spanner of the right size. I'm going to have to do this a little bit precariously. Black hole. Awesome. Thank you. You're remembering things way better than I am at this point in time. I would like to say that's the morning, but also no. My memory can be kind of terrible at times. Alright. So yes, unfortunately, we're going to have to struggle through this next bit because, as mentioned, I've only got one ratchet for this, which this is going to be a bit of a pain. But that's okay. We will get there. Ah. Morning, Jevon. And pretty sure you can't do that, mate. That's my thing. Maybe. I don't know. I think after the April Fool's Day video last year, I think I've said, hello, I'm Ben from Team Panic on this channel way, way, way too much at this point. I really should have bought a pair of channel locks or something with me to have done this. That would have been a better move. World of Panic. What on earth would we even do on a World of Panic channel? Because, I mean, I want to be like news and builds, but Jevon already does that on World of Woodrow, so then I'm not adding anything to this. Maybe news, builds, and fight reports, but then that's literally just like part of a thing that I do. I don't know. Just wondering, have you ever seen the hit between Swarm and I think it was Ice Wave? Battlebots, big boys. Hit Swarm so hard it bounced off 2 different walls. I think I know the fight you're talking about, but it's been a very, very long time since I've seen it. So here we go. This is one of the wheels. This is actually one of the ones that got hit by Ice Wave. Not Ice Wave. Iron Tooth. And you can see where that damage occurred. But luckily, this is one of the ones that the bearing mount actually managed to survive all of that damage. And enough that I could put a bearing in there. The other thing is I've actually got plastic bearings on the inside because having learnt from this, I wasn't going to put metal bearings up against a HDPE wall. That was just going to be a bad time for everyone. And I'm kind of right on that. Even the plastic bearings didn't do a great job in here. Yeah, no, I mean, this system kind of survived, but only kind of. It could have been done a whole lot better. Creepy crawlies versus Sal. I think it was Creepy Crawlies versus Sal. I'm just thinking, I don't know that Ice Wave did have a fight with the multi-bots. I definitely know that they put Sal in with the multi-bots at one point because they were going for like pure destruction, essentially. Imagining Annie getting hit by Ice Wave. Yeah, no, yeah, Annie would just be completely annihilated. The only thing that Annie would have going for her in that particular situation is that Ice Blade's weapon is like way up, and Annie is not. So it's a case of if Ice Wave managed to put a shot on Annie, then Annie is like shrapnel in the battle box. But if not, she might be able to survive a full 3 minutes, but she wouldn't be able to do anything to Ice Wave. That's just, there's no way. So that's a lose-lose fight, because either you lose the fight by not doing anything, or you lose the fight by being entirely annihilated. Having said that, I would really like to see somebody put a beetle weight in against a heavyweight, just to see how much insane destruction would actually happen. Swarm was Robot Wars Series 10. Okay. Yeah, 4 Horsemen and Creepy Crawlies were the BattleBots versions. The Swarm was Robot Wars versions, of course. Yeah. That's the thing. People putting robots in basically, you know, the same robot, but it's just across different shows, which makes sense. I mean, a lot of the time, those type of shows will have clauses on the name and the look of the robot and stuff. And if you take a robot with you, the name and the look becomes theirs, so that they can market it and do like hex bugs and stuff. From what I've heard, BattleBots does that, but then does also pay teams for, like, you know, if you get made into a hex bug, you get some monetary kickback from BattleBots for that, which is nice, because I think technically by the actual wording of the contract that's signed, they don't have to do that. At least not the contract that happened early on, because I think the first time I looked at the BattleBots contract was in 2015, 2016, fairly early in the reboot, and the contract was fairly stiff in terms of, like, basically you apply for BattleBots and BattleBots just owns everything about the robot, which, yeah. I haven't looked at the contract again recently. I probably should do that. The only option for Annie versus Ice Wave is Charlie's Pack. True. However, that's more of a fair fight than it should be. Let's be real here. That type of thing should not be a fair fight, and in Charlie's Pack it will be. Like, the reason people want to see Annie versus Ice Wave is to see Annie annihilated entirely. Not to see Annie actually survive and, you know, have a chance of winning the whole fight. Right, we've got... Where's my screwdriver gone? So the next trick is to get these motors out, if we can. This whole back section got exploded, so there's a lot of damage and hot glue and just wobbliness in here, even without getting the bolts back out of it and everything. We needed 9 beetles to make a feather, and that was a lot of people to get next to an arena. Yeah. Yes, yeah. And I think there is some limit to multi-bots. Maybe they're... Oh, I can't remember if that's still a thing or not. There used to be a limit on size of multi-bots too, and I think 4 Horsemen's like right at the very tail end of that. In terms of like, you can't go much smaller than the 4 Horsemen and still be deemed like fightable robots. Which honestly I think makes sense. Too many people around the arena side is just a hazard, and you've only got so much space in those like little like boxes that you stand in as drivers, especially these days with all the COVID safety precautions and stuff that exist with the Lexan barrier and whatever. You've only got so much space. However, having said that, with the Lexan barrier in there now, it's actually taken 2 people out of that little driver's box. So you've got the little like driver's box where it's an indent into the arena with sloped walls on it. And before COVID, when I was there, rather than having the plastic barrier down the middle, you actually had 2 cameramen standing in that spot. So there were 2 cameramen standing in that spot, pointing cameras back at the drivers. Now it seems like it's like they've got the Lexan there and they've got an auto camera set up in that space. So you actually probably even have more room in the driver's boxes now post-COVID than you did pre-COVID, because there's 2 whole people that don't exist anymore. I mean, I'm sure they're like remotely operating the camera from back somewhere else, but they don't. Whoop. What's going on? Hello. Why is my... that's interesting. Come back, please. All right. Oh, well, that's annoying. Just trying to get this sorted. The camera has gone down, or at least the utility that's running it has decided to go down, because the camera's working fine. This is a new thing that I'm attempting to use. I'm actually using my proper filming camera as a webcam at the moment to try and get this running. And it doesn't seem to like doing that, which is a real problem. Ah, okay. That's why. Oh, that's annoying. So, unfortunately, we are down the desk cam now because the camera has actually gone flat. I didn't realize it was going to go flat quite that quickly. I was honestly thinking that we were only going to, yeah, I thought it was going to be able to do a full hour and not have any problems with that. So, we're going to carry on for the moment. I'm going to try and kind of build up here and see what happens. And yes, no, it didn't overheat. It went flat. Yeah, that's just a thing. I probably should have charged it overnight, actually. I haven't been using it all that much recently, so I thought the battery was full, but apparently not. Yeah, we're just gonna have to run with the webcam, which has got a weird autofocus on it, so maybe it's gonna focus on me, maybe it's not. Hopefully it does. We'll see how we go. Oh, there was a little plastic screw in there. But yeah, here we go. So that is the motor situation for the drive, or the X drive now, because this is definitely not going to go back in Annie again. And you can probably see on the motor shaft there, so we've got the motor shaft and we've got this little bit of green. That is heat shrink, because I heat shrunk both of these because the warping of these side panels, which Yeah, you can still kind of see that. After the fight with not Lumberjack, Iron Tooth, these panels warped quite considerably. And there you go, you can see the little bow right here where my finger is. So these panels warped quite considerably, so putting everything back together again, it didn't like me, basically. Nothing lined up, so I had to put a lot of heat shrink on the motor shafts to get them to work, which worked for a little while, but the one that I've already pulled off, that one, it actually, the heat shrink broke down during the fight. Like, it overheated and it just disintegrated because it was essentially friction running the wheel, which wasn't great for it, realistically. So we're going to finish off on Annie, and then I'm probably going to end the stream there. I'll have to make sure next time that, yeah, either the battery's fully charged or I find a way of getting power to the camera. I think I can externally power this camera. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll do it a bit better next time. And of course, so I hot glued everything. There's hot glue around the bolts, but of course, hot glue doesn't really stick that well to HDPE. It's stuck well enough to get Annie back into a fight, but not much more than that. But that's basically what I was going for, really. I was only going for it to, you know, keep her in fights, get her one more fight, because that's all I needed. I just needed to go into the third place playoff with her, and away we were going. So, once we're done with this one, it will literally just be weapon mount and then all of the side panels, which the side panels are not too bad. They are put together with the same wood screws that the lid goes on with, which somebody did mention earlier are like ant weight side screws, which, yeah, I'll agree with that. They are. But they're not really the primary mechanism. Well, they kind of are the primary mechanism keeping things together, but everything is like puzzle pieced together as well. So it's a combination of puzzle piecing and small screws, but there is a lot of them in the actual setup. And then, yeah, there we go. Other one of these, which I'm not going to pull these apart because I don't feel the need. They can sit as they are. Sounds like you needed the motor shaft knurled or something for more grip. Yep, that would have been perfect. That would have been really, really good to do. I just didn't have anything that I could do that with. Like, I don't have any tools and equipment set up that I can knurl a shaft with. What's the black and green robot on the floor in the background? Oh! Wait, other side. Where are we? Yeah. I'm bad at doing things on camera. Here we go. There we go. That there is Crudity model. That is my very, very, very first featherweight that I put together. It is a two-wheel drive wedge. It was supposed to be a like nightmare-style spinner, but I ran out of time. I didn't know what the hell I was doing in terms of weapon motors and things. I was just going to run it off of another drill motor for the weapon, which, oh, looking back on that now, I'm just, yeah, no, that's not a thing that should have ever happened. And it was built with components from my local hardware store. So it's running on drill drive, and then everything else is just components from the hardware store. So the front wedge is 5mm thick mild steel, which I cut down and welded together. Well, actually, I didn't even weld it. My brother welded it together for me. The sidewalls are 90mm box section galvanized steel, which was a pain in the ass to weld and get fully together. And then there's a back plate of 5mm steel, and then there's a loop of like 3mm steel, which we hand bent without even really having clamps and stuff to clamp it to a table. We just like bending it against each other to get the nice kind of bend shape to protect the wheels, because it's my first featherweight. I think I'd built 2 other ant weights at that point, and I was like, oh yeah, no, definitely need wheel protection, which it's not something I fully agree with anymore. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's a piece of the channel's history. If you go back on the channel and go all the way back to the very, very first video, I think the very first video is actually that thing's first fight, and it was a, the first video is a fight of Crudity model, and it was because I had a GoPro attached to the top of the Crudity model, and I put it into the arena, and so there is a fight from inside the arena with crudity model as the robot that you're attached to, essentially. Yeah, it was an interesting learning curve. I built it once, fought it, and it never ended up competing again, because it was just not great. Let's say. Looks pretty good from this distance based on that description. I will actually, you know what? I think I am going to pull it out of, well, not retirement, but I might make a video on it. If you guys are interested in it, I might make a video on it because it never got any video stuff done. And I'm taking out that bolt that got bent, and oh my gosh, is it bent. It is like, it's not having a fun time here. Come on. Right. You see, if I try and like show this on camera, I'm having to like, this bolt is very, very, very bent. I'm having to like rotate and also kind of twist the screwdriver around the place to try and get this to come out, which, here we go. Okay. So I've got the lock nut off of it. That's going to help. And I'll just pull this out. But yeah, let me know too if you want to have if you want me to do a little like deep dive, or not a deep dive, just an overview on crudity model, my first featherweight, and let you guys know what that was and what it was about, and have a bit of a, you know, a deep dive into the guts of it, and have a look at how I built everything and things that I did and things that I do differently or have done differently even. So there you go. That's that bolt that got hit by Iron Tooth. This is the type of power that Iron Tooth has. There's definitely been moments where I've been like, you know what, I really need to just make all of my bolts hardened steel bolts, but I've been too lazy to do that. I really do actually need to turn around and harden steel all my bolts at some point. And then yeah, there's some nice damage up on here. It's really annoying I don't have this other camera going anymore, because that would have been a lot easier to show this damage, whereas this doesn't really want to focus on it. All right, a couple more bolts, and then we'll be almost done with Annie's destruction. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to probably either try and stream once a week or once every other week, doing stuff like this, pulling robots apart and chatting, or working on some design stuff and chatting, because when I'm actually running the channel, which we are going to get back into doing videos here very soon, I am doing loads and loads and loads of CAD, obviously, because I'm doing builds like every week, essentially. So I thought it would be cool to do some CAD streams and maybe even run through an entire like ant weight design on stream and just show my entire process through that. The only thing that's kind of been stopping me so far is that a lot of my ant weights I don't design in a way that is replicable anymore, because the software that I use it doesn't really exist. Like, you can get copies of it, but the manufacturer or the maker of the software doesn't want you to anymore. They decommissioned it and have killed off half of its features and stuff, and it doesn't work super well on Windows 10, but it's easy to use, and it's something that I learnt to CAD with, so I keep using it. I mean, I also do use Fusion 360 for a bunch of things, but I mostly use Fusion 360 for things that need to send off elsewhere. So stuff like the pulleys for It Doesn't Work at All, which went off to PCBWay to get machined, all of that, like in the entirety of It Works, is in Fusion 360. But any ant weight that I'm just building here, like in-house, quote unquote, all gets done in a thing called 123D Design. Will Annie go back to brushed drive or geared brushless? That's a great question. I don't know. I have both options available to me, and I think that what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to get Annie set up so that she can be either way. And then I'm going to test brushless drive, like geared brushless drive, like, yeah, the 1806s on the back of a 25mm gearbox. I want to test that in Annie, see how that goes. And if I don't like it, we'll throw back over to the brush system, because like the brush system worked for us. It worked really well. And, you know, ever since I've moved away from that, we've had nothing but trouble really with the drive system. So going back to something that worked is probably a good idea at this point. You know, especially as Annie was quite fierce when she was on brushed drive. It was just a case of I moved away from that to try and get more weight, thinking that I could maybe put that into the weapon, but I haven't really done that. So it's been a bit of a waste to have been off brushless drive. I mean, kind of, in a sense of winning fights, but winning fights, I guess, isn't everything for me. The learning that I've got from having done a YOLO Annie and having done a tangential drive Annie is quite good, because it means that I've got information now for future beetles that I'm going to build you know, and I know what I want to do differently for those in terms of tangential drive and YOLO drive and stuff. I mean, Annie's YOLO drive period kind of directly inspired It Works and stuff, and well, helped inform some of the choices that I've made there, and just helped all that stuff out. All right, so we're at this point. All the bolts are gone out of here, but you can see it's still locked in place. That is because there is one bolt here and one bolt there, which these two bolts are literally to try and keep these walls straight in against here, which kind of worked all the way up until Iron Tooth hit the wheels and buckled everything around. But, you know, that's all right. Almost there on this one. These are also only M4 bolts, but that didn't really matter because there is a lot of bolt in here and it's fairly well protected. So it didn't actually bend or break or anything. In fact, it held quite solid when, like, when you have a look at how these walls bent, this point at the front held quite solid and rigid, and then it kind of buckled all the way through the back here, especially in this section where the motor goes through, where there's really not a whole lot of HDPE there. It really buckled a lot around that particular section. So here we go, last bolt to get the weapon mount off. We'll also have a look too at the actual mounting plate for these inside here, because I think this one is coming out anyway. So what might surprise people with this weapon system is that, so this is our weapon system, and in the end, where's the camera gone? There it is. Just 3D printed blocks, but 3D printed blocks with heat insert nuts in the back of them, and then, yeah, there's one bolt hole, which is one of the bolts that goes up through the top, locks it in place, and then the other one is the one that holds the side panels on. What other colors do you think Annie would look good in? That's an interesting question. I'd really like to see Annie go actually purple. I mean, this is a nice blue color, but it is not the purple that I wanted for Annie. I would love to get Annie to go actually purple, like a deep royal purple. I would really, really, really like to see that. I mean, the other thing that I think I have to do at some point is a like nice vibrant green Annie, like a really fluoro green type color for Annie. That would be quite cool. I don't know. And then maybe we'd go back to a black Annie at some point, especially if I take Annie to the UK. I think I might need to go back to the Bugglebots level coloring. Just because. Or maybe not. Maybe we do go like a fluoro green if we go back to the UK with Annie. You know, just for something a bit different, to kind of highlight the fact that there have been changes and improvements made to Annie as we've gone through. Oh, wow. So it's starting to pull out the wood screws that hold the side panels on, and they are A, tiny, and B, bent and damaged, which realistically, I should have seen that coming. These side walls are not in good shape right now, so it only makes sense, really, that they are warpy and kind of bad. So yeah, not too far away here, and then I think once I've got Annie apart, we will probably wrap the stream up because yeah, things yeah, not going too well with the whole technology front today. Annie for Scouse Showdown. I don't know what Scouse Showdown is, to be honest. I've been looking at Rapture Gaming Festival. That's the one that I am actually quite keen for, which is also further into the year, which is nice because, you know, with COVID and everything, who knows whether I'm allowed out of the country at the moment. But hopefully by kind of middle of the year, I will actually be allowed out of the country. You know, fingers crossed. Who knows? If she goes purple, that might look a bit like a dairy milk bar. Not that that's a bad thing. Oh, wow. Actually, that is a good point. I think if it does end up being that royal, like, milk bar purple, I might have to make just a little sticky label that can go over top of her that is a kind of off-brand milk bar label. That would be quite funny, I think. Yeah, okay. Well, we need to do better on this because these screws are all warpy and destroyed. Oh, there is one more in the back. But yeah, so you can see that there's a ton of screws through here. So there's 1, 2, 3 through the side, and then 3 across the bottom, and then 2 in the back. Oh, 1 in the back. There should have been 2 in the back. Why is it not? Nah. Anyway, 1 in the back. There's a lot of these wood screws in here, but they are tiny. So it didn't really hold these panels all that well. I wonder if we can see this a little bit better on camera and how badly... Oh yeah, you can see... Try and straighten this up. See how badly warped and damaged these panels are. They are wrecked. These are going in the spare parts bin and never, ever, ever coming back out again. All right. 2 more walls here. Oh, this wall, the screws are coming out quite nicely. So this wall didn't get anywhere near as badly damaged as the other one did. That's nice to know. I mean, one of them did get hit harder than the other one because one of them, the wheel took a direct shot from the spinner at full speed. The other one kind of came around and got hit by the spinner as it was slowing back down. So, but then again, this back corner, yeah, you can see that there's like nothing kind of fits right in this puzzle piece back corner here. All of that looks a bit weird. So that's not good because that means that something's gone wrong. Oh yeah, this screw out the back here is hard to take out and it is warpy, which means that yeah, this part, that might be the bit that got hit actually when Annie spun round and Iron Tooth jabbed it with a not quite fully up to speed bar. Still enough to do damage. Because of course it was, because it's Iron Tooth. Yeah, so I think now that Annie's apart, I am going to have to recad Annie because there's a lot of stuff in here that I want to change. I don't think this base plate is good enough anymore, so we're going to have to change a whole bunch of stuff up there and get it all working again. Almost there. See how badly this one is warped compared to the other one. This is the old one. Oh, camera focus. Thank you. It's a new one. Well, not new. Oh, it's warped more that way, which is interesting. Oh, new people in chat. Hello. We are actually almost at the end of the stream here. I'm doing pretty well. But yeah, we've been going for about an hour and one of my cameras is dead. So I was planning on doing a little bit more than this, but the camera that I was using to kind of shoot at the table where I'm pulling things apart has died. So I'm kind of pulling things apart up by my face, which is a bit weird. So we're probably going to finish up as soon as I finish up this back wall, which it's not going to take me too much longer. Oh, actually, there we go. That's interesting. This guy here, that's supposed to be a screw head there. Which, that's annoying because that's going to be really, really hard to get back out again. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Anyway, we're going to just pull off the rest of these. That's taken a shot from something at some point. Which is going to make disassembling Annie a lot harder because, like I said, all of this stuff is puzzle pieced together, so it's not just like I can move things around. When will I stream next? I don't know quite yet. Probably a week, maybe 2 weeks' time. Depends on how things go in my life next weekend. There's some stuff planned that may or may not happen. And if it doesn't happen, then I'm probably stream. But if it does happen, won't be able to stream. So I'm planning on trying to do more streaming as we go through this year. Because I started a little bit last year and then kind of stopped partway into February or something. And I'd really like to keep that up this year. So let's see if we can break this one screw. Come on. There we go. Oh, cool. Yeah, because it didn't have a head on it. It came out all right. Yeah, so there you go. That's a base plate, which this base plate survived okay despite everything that happened to it over the course of that weekend. The back plate is a little bit warpy over this corner, which I think is where it got hit. And then got that screw out, and then that'll be it. Oh, that's interesting. This screw has got like corrosion on it. I have no idea how that managed to happen. Similar time slot. Maybe. So here's the thing. What I'm thinking about doing is over the course of this week, I will put up some polls on the community tab on the channel and kind of just ask about time slots. I will find some time slots that work for me. I will translate those into American and UK time zones and throw those up on a community poll thing. So if you see the community poll, vote in the community poll. Let me know when like times work for you. Basically, I'll use it as a rough gauge, and what I'll try and do is I'll try and like swap back and forth. So I'm not just going for like the time zone that works for my American audience. I'll try and kind of like do some that work for people in the UK and some that work for people in Australia. Like this time zone, not great for people in Australia. It's now 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, so I know a lot of people in Australia are still probably asleep at this point in time. But it's kind of Saturday night for a lot of the rest of the world, which does, I know, work for a lot of people. So you know, I'm going to kind of try and chop and change it a little bit and make sure that different people get to see the streams if they want to. Anyway, thank you all for joining me on the stream. I hope that was kind of enjoyable, even though the camera went down partway through the thing and this webcam's not the best at focusing on my face. Hope you have a good one. And I will hopefully see you at the next stream. And also, video should be out next week as well. Bye!